So, one thing that I will say is that, and I can't say this enough really, I thank God for allowing me to be a father because I really love my son as much as it gets on my nerves. It's just a blessing to, have a son. For the men who are fathers of young boys, it's very important that we are active and we really talk with them. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always a there's always this belief of far as children becoming something or someone that they probably wouldn't have been if their dad father wasn't around. For me, my dad was in the military, as I always say, but I'm always going to stand on, 10 toes down for my dad, and I'm always going to stay 10 toes down for my son. What's up, blessed ones? You are now blaring the podcast. Brought to you by AB1 Studios. Thank you for your time. Listening. You want to know something else, blessed ones? So I just want to take the time real quick just to acknowledge once again, because again and again, I talk about my dad and I talk about my son and, just, being a father, it is being not just being a father, but being a dad. It's bigger than, just, a child being born and, you were being a paternal father. But for me, I take a lot of pride in it. And like I said, I still have those moments and times where I still can't believe it because it's like my son's 8 and I really think about times where I'm like, man, had I still have been in the house and me and his mother was still together as far as like, hey, how would things be then? But even though we are not, we have a pretty good relationship, but I couldn't ask for, just a better time. Me being 37, have my son at 29. It's just sometimes I cry because in the earlier years, this might have been some time after me and his mother, separated and divorced, and I was working in the shipyard, and I was still saying my wife, because one thing about me is until y'all are finalized, y'all are still married. And I think it's also important because even with my current relationship status now, it has to, certain things have to be done orderly. But like I used to, be talking to shit, y'all be like, yeah, my wife has a boyfriend or my wife this, and a lot of people used to say stuff about, say, yeah, you still saying your wife, y'all not together. I'm like, people got to understand that when you have children with someone, and especially when you was married to them, regardless of how long or how short, that love just don't go away. But when you have a foundation with someone, it doesn't just go off just because y'all separate or get divorced and everything. Things don't just go away easily. And I'm just always glad that I was always able to be there for my son and my dad there for me and my brothers and sisters and stuff. But the whole point is just to encourage and inform and enlighten, the men who are fathers, whether you have a boy or a girl, is to just always show up for them. Do the best that you can. You might not make it to all the games. You might not make it to all the recitals. You might not make it to all the PTA meetings, but just make sure that they know you. Make sure that you have your own personal relationship with them away from the other parent. Just make sure that they know your presence, because that's going to make a whole difference. Because I don't even want to think about, forget about me and his mother not being together. I don't ever want to think, hey, what would happen if I wasn't around, if I was absent, if I wasn't active? And it's just like, I don't want to think about that, because in a lot of the decisions that I make in life, I have to think about him as well. Not saying that all my decisions have to be based on that, but me, the type of father that I am, the type of pride that I take in my, in my relationship with my son, I have to really think and pray long and hard. Maybe it's not the best decision. Maybe it's not always the best thing, because again, I still have to work. But just for me to have that relationship, and my son knows who I am, and he tells me more than I tell him, hey, Daddy, I love you. He can just, I can just be sitting around and he'll just come downstairs, be like, Daddy, and I'll be like, what? I'll be like, what is it? Cause I could be doing something and he just comes down and just say, Dad, I was like, what, man? What do you want? I love you. And it's like, oh, man. But see, that's the thing. Like, and then even with the way that I raised my son, I raised him different than his mother. We're not together now, so other things that, we started talking about, but I raised him maybe a little bit different than my mother. I mean, I don't think, his mother don't spank him neither, but I don't spank him. He did get spankings, but after a while, I personally stopped. I take privileges away from him. I might take the tablet. I might take the phone. I might say, nope, no toys, none of this. You want to sit there and read. And I can always be better. I can always become, better at my parenting. And what made me think about this is, it's like, man, I can dish it out, but I can't take it. And I don't want to get too personal, but it's like, I take a lot of pride in my relationships, dating, business, parenting. I take a lot of pride in it. And sometimes, because I'm so used to being like maybe one of few who actually does for his children, sometimes I kind of forget that if I'm involved with someone and I might receive or get information that might be, okay, well, why is that? But again, I can dish it out, but can't take it. Me personally, I commend, because even though we're supposed to take care of our children, I still commend parents, men, fathers who are holding it down for their children. No matter what type of relationship they have with the mother, I commend it, because women can be hard. And then even being married, it's even harder. Because I'm gonna say this live and in color on this podcast, on this show. And whatever comes from it, comes from it. Me personally, as I gotten closer to God and still get closer to God, I strongly believe that fathers is the source of love. And even though the mother, because the mother's love is gonna be there. I mean, there's could be trash mothers out there, but my thing is, there's always gonna be that head, and no matter how you wanna look at it, shape it, do things, there's the father's always gonna be a head. Even when we sit here and pray and we ask Jesus and we say, "Okay, Father, for this," because again, this is a patriarchal society still, and even though the Bible, the Scripture, stands on, the laws of what God wants, the man is still in charge. So, however, whatever decision you decide to make in your marriage, I mean, there can be reasons on why, marriages don't last. There can be reasons why parents are co-parents, and there can be reasons why, everybody has different household rules. But personally, what I strongly believe is like, the man is the head. And if you're single, you're single. But even now, like even today, in my dating stage and in my relationships, it's like I have to lead, not saying that I'm not supposed to submit. Women ought to submit to their husbands, and there's going to be some things that will, of course, we all fall short of glory, but the purpose is to strive to practice righteousness as much as you can, because I'm also going to stand on, like, everybody's going to heaven. Heaven and hell. There is going to be good and it is going to be bad, but it's all going to serve for His glory. Now, that's the only thing. That's why a lot of people might feel like the Bible contradicts, but our human understanding is what contradicts. I don't have my Bible today. Well, I don't have my Bible open. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna bring it out, but it's just something that I was thinking about. Talking to my lady, and then it's just like, man, sometimes it's hard to date. It's hard to work even when you have children and you're co-parenting, because daycare is expensive, childcare is expensive, and sometimes you just can't. Not all jobs are flexible to where you can bring your child in. I have the luxury to where sometimes if I got to go to work, I'll bring my child in. But it's just like, man, it's that's why it's important to, to have that relationship. But things just don't always work out the way that you want them to work out. But you have to stand, strong and firm. If things don't work out, you still have to be there for your child. Some people might believe that co-parenting should really just be, hey, y'all talk about decisions and stuff like this. That's fine. Like I said, me and my wife didn't always get along. Me and my wife didn't always have that. Hey, I'm we gonna talk. Because I always leave the door, but that's just who I am as a person. I don't have to talk to her. My son's old enough now to where I can talk to him, but he's not old enough to be able to fend for himself. So there's still some things there. So just like me and her don't have to have no other relationship outside of him. But at the same time, we had a relationship before him. Even whether it was short or not. But my main thing is just being there for your kids and trying to put your best foot forward. Because even for me, I try and I try and I try. It's like, man, I work, and not to go on a tangent or to, get too deep into, the situation. It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm being here for my son, but I still have to provide for myself. I still have to be able to put, food on the plate. I got to be able to do things, for myself, and sometimes it gets hard, but, dads, fathers, be there for your children. And I can't stress enough, there's not enough that I can say about, being an active parent. Sometimes it's just like I might get a brain fart and forget, but, I take a lot of pride in that. And that's one thing I will say. Maybe I got that from my dad because, like I said, my dad's been around. My dad's been active. My dad always, I call my dad probably more now than, I did when I was younger, or even I might call my dad more than he calls me now. But like I said, it's always a parent's job, or it's always up to the parent. I don't think a child should, reach out to their parent, in order to, keep a relationship going. But again, I'm not saying that that they're wrong if they do it or children shouldn't do it. But I always feel like, the parent should be the one to reach out. Because like I said, again, it's like, hey, regardless of what society says, sometimes there's no way for children to, contact you if they don't have no phone. But, moving to a different point, how was everybody's holiday, Christmas, for those of you who celebrated? Because, I had a good, Christmas, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really big on it, but like I said, I went out, and my brother, son, we went to my sister's mother-in-law's house, my brother's mother's house. And it was a good time. We saw, of course, we seen Beyonce. She did what she did. It wasn't really. I don't know. I didn't feel as hyped as maybe some other people was. Because it's just like I'm just when it comes to certain things, I'm not really. I don't really care about it. It just kind of felt like a regular show. I know the production was there. You had all the had the country singers by Post Malone, all them came, and then Blue Ivy, of course, did her thing. But I'm just the holiday season. The holiday season's always one of those moments where sometimes people might get into it because they might say, it's a pagan holiday or it's a holiday thing. And even people who celebrate their birthdays, they might not celebrate their birthdays anymore. But I do want to say this as well, because here's my thing. We all know, or a lot of us should know, that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. it would be silly to, not silly, but it would be, kind of wild because, again, the calendar years, the calendar months aren't, those aren't like, there wasn't originally 12 months in a year. They're like, time moved on, but it's like, that's just a decision that we chose. And however people decide to acknowledge Christ, however people decide to, celebrate the holidays, or even if they don't celebrate holidays, we still have to think about the incarnation of Christ. And I think what I dislike most is when people try to not condemn, but try to criticize other people for celebrating holiday. Because here's my thing. You can work from home, you can do this. I mean, it could be another day. Cause it could be another day. Cause like I said, for a small time, I wasn't, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just there. But I had to learn. I had to learn and give people grace as God gives us grace. Because I think it's a multitude of people who stand and believe something, but we got to remember, why are they doing it? If they believe what this holiday is to be, then it's okay. Even if you give gifts, there's Jesus received gifts on his birth. When the disciples and the men came and they gave him gifts, and women came and they kissed him and did all that, he received gifts. But my thing is, why is it such a big deal on whether or not? Because it may be a big deal, but why is it a big deal? Because we don't know why people do it. There could be people who say, okay, this is where this stems from. Now, I'm not going to discuss Santa. That's for another time. But if you have your Christmas tree up, there's a backstory with that. But if you're celebrating Christmas, you acknowledge it as Jesus' birthday. Or even if you just acknowledge it as a regular holiday. Because here's the thing. We are in America. We are in America, and some people are just going to go with the American society's traditions. And for me, it's not bad enough for me to tell somebody they shouldn't do it. Because I can, like I said, I'll call my brother like, hey, yo, what you doing for Christmas? No, we don't celebrate Christmas. Well, here's my thing. You can't really do anything about school being out. You can't really do anything about work being out. But you can do something about singing in the choir, caroling. You can do something about whether or not you give gifts or not. My son receives gifts from his counselors, and I appreciate it. I didn't give gifts. I didn't do gifts this year. I mean, I let him do it, but it's just like, man. And it partially could be because, financial hardship or whatnot, but it's like, if I want to give my son something, if I want to do something for somebody, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just do it. I'm not gonna wait. But that's just me, because I'm just like, hey, look, I'm gonna buy this. I want you to have something. I'm not gonna wait a month for you to get it. So personally, like I said, it's always just kind of like whatever with me. I want to be able to serve Christ, love Christ, and take care of my family while striving to be as righteous as I can. Now, if I know, then I know. When I learn, I will move accordingly. But I think sometimes we have so much entitlement, especially when it comes to holiday, because like, hey, we didn't create this, so we can't sit here and dictate it. How you move in your home is how you move in your home. So, all that can be, another whole another thing. All right. And I really just want people to allow people to, I need to be careful how I say this as well, because sometimes this is going to trickle down to something else. I want us to be able to enjoy our times with our families. And if Christmas, Thanksgiving, Juneteenth, of those are the times that we can have to spend time, even because again, tradition, it's hard to just get everybody on one accord. But if you want to spend time with your family, you can go knock on and say, let's do this. But it's like, hey, people work, everybody does things. This is the day that we're going to decide to do it. We don't have to sit here and, do caroling or nothing. We can open gifts or whatever. But my main thing is just loving each other, appreciating one another, and acknowledging, people for being them. Which allows me to then get on with another point that I want to say. We was all raised, well, a lot of us was raised, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. And of course, that's going to be hard in this world, with social media. But I'll say this, right? You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like me. You don't even have to support or respect me. But don't disrespect me. I can be in a room with people that don't have the same faith as me. I can be in a room with different sexes, different people with different religions, different races, different philosophies. I can be in a room with them. Because again, I'm genuinely like, I'm not somebody who, I don't put my faiths on other people. I can get along with everybody because that's who I am. But what I am going to do is, when the time comes to take a moral stand or do a moral high ground, I'm always going to take that moral high ground. Because I was having a conversation with my brother, and I asked this before, and I'm gonna keep asking it. If there was one thing that you can ask God to give you, He's gonna give us grace and mercy and all this. I mean, He'll give us these things, we can ask for. Sometimes He gives us grace and He'll give it to us. But if there was one thing that God can give you, that God will, without a shadow of a doubt, give you, it's kind of just take it as like, okay, if this was your air, if this was your body, what would it be? And I'm just going to stand on again. It's like discernment. And I thought about it. It's like, hey, I have discernment. I have to be there for my son. I have discernment. I have to work. I have discernment. I have to you know, be in certain rooms. I have to be in certain circles. I have to be in, certain environments. But that's just where I go. So before I got out of here, I do want to say fathers, you're doing a good job. Those of you who are about to be fathers, those of you who might can work on, we all have to get better. As good of a dad as I am, my relationship with my son can always be better. And I always keep in mind that hey, it's not up to me to determine whether I'm a good dad or not. It's one of those things that are unfortunate because I'm like, hey, James, I'm not a good dad. You could not do nothing, but it's like, what makes a parent a good parent? But just wanted to point some things out. Have any questions, suggestions, requests? You know what to do. As always, stay safe, stay positive, productive, and always be positive. This is Blair. I'm out.